Oscar's the man to look for in lane 4. Blake Leaper of the States, Oscar Pistorius of South Africa.
That's a reception that nobody but the Brit is getting in this stadium. That might be the biggest reception we've heard.
That is.
But Pistorius is going away. He's putting distance between himself and Oliveira, and Oscar Pistorius, the greatest Paralympic athlete of all time, is going to take this gold medal. He's in a different league, and Oscar Pistorius is the Paralympic champion of 2012 in London.
She wasn't breathing. I didn't want to believe that it could be Reeva inside the toilet. I was still scared that maybe somebody was coming in to attack me or us. I made my way back to inside the bathroom, and I walked up to the bathroom door. I tried to grab the handle and rip open the door, push the door open, and it was locked. For the first time, I turned around with my back facing the bathroom. I ran back to the room.
Welcome back to Crime Rush. Today we're diving into the rollercoaster life of a once legendary Paralympic athlete, Oscar Pistorius. Picture this: crazy success, cheering crowds, and then a massive fall from grace that nobody saw coming. Today is the 5th of January 2024, and also the day of Oscar Pistorius' release from prison. Oscar served almost 9 years after killing his girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp, on Valentine's Day in 2013. Oscar was escorted out of Kotsi Mampuru prison in Pretoria just after 6 in the morning in a sealed van. He will be subject to parole conditions until his sentence expires in 2029. Some of his parole conditions include restrictions on leaving his home, abstaining from alcohol and drugs, and he is also not allowed to answer any media questions. Should he not adhere to these conditions, he will have to return to prison. Many of the parole restrictions he will face over the next 5 years, he shares in common with every other parolee in the country. It's suspected that he will live with his uncle Arnold in an exclusive area in Pretoria, protected behind the property's high walls. This is where journalists gathered this Friday morning. Some of his relatives were seen coming and going in vehicles but did not answer any questions. A bunch of flowers addressed to Oscar was delivered to his uncle's home by a courier at lunchtime. But many are asking, what's next for Oscar? Local media have speculated on his future, including that he may become some sort of pastor, which follows his father saying several years ago that Pistorius was taking an active role in the Christian community within prison. The fact is that Oscar is definitely not a celebrity seeking a comeback. His career as an athlete is over. Brands will never want to sponsor him, and I doubt he will be sought out as a sports commentator in the future. We can speculate what's next for Oscar, but the truth is we don't know. We will have to wait it out and see what happens. But for those who perhaps are not familiar with the case and how everything unfolded, stick around and find out. Oscar Leonard Carl Pistorius was born on the 22nd of November 1986 in Johannesburg, South Africa. His parents, Sheila and Henke Pistorius, noticed straight away that something was not right when their baby was born. Oscar was born with fibular hemimelia, which is the congenital absence of the fibula in both legs. At only 11 months, both of Oscar's legs had to be amputated below the knees. Oscar grew up in an Afrikaans Christian home alongside his older brother Carl and younger sister Amy. Unfortunately, when Oscar turned 6, his parents got divorced, and this caused a rift in his relationship with his father. Reports claim that his father was a former party animal and had a taste for young women. 9 years later, when Oscar was only 15 years old, another tragedy struck. His beloved mother, Sheila, passed away. According to reports, she was misdiagnosed with hepatitis and received the incorrect treatment. When her condition hadn't improved after a week, her friend Gillian Silcock took her to the hospital. On the 6th of March 2002, her children were rushed to her hospital bedside. Her friend Gillian told the media that Sheila had had a brain hemorrhage, but didn't want to let go until she had said goodbye to her children. When her children arrived, she held on for another 15 minutes, but then passed away. Oscar attended Constantia Kloof Primary School and Pretoria Boys High School, where he played rugby, water polo and tennis at provincial level between the ages of 11 and 13. In addition, Pistorius took part in Club Olympic Wrestling and trained at Jannie Brooks' Garage Gym in Pretoria. Brooks remarked that it took 6 months before he noticed that Pistorius had no legs, but nonetheless was able to do many exercises, including boxing, skipping, and doing press-ups. In January 2004, after a serious rugby injury, he was introduced to running. His first racing blades were fitted by South African prosthetist Francois van der Watt. Because he was unable to find suitable running blades in Pretoria, van der Watt ordered the pair to be made by a local engineer. However, as these quickly broke, van der Watt referred Pistorius to American prosthetist and Paralympic sprinter Brian Fraser to be fitted for blades by Icelandic company Össur. This is how he eventually got the nickname the Blade Runner. Oscar went on to make a name for himself as the fastest man with no legs. He took part in the 2004 Summer Paralympics in Athens and came third overall and qualified for the final. He went on to win the final and set a world record of 21.96 seconds. In 2005, he finished 6th in the non-disabled South African Championships, and that same year he won gold in the 100 and 200 meters at the Paralympic World Cup. In 2007, he set a disability sports world record for the 400 meter at the South African Senior Athletics Championships in Durban. The Blade Runner also faced some criticism, as some claimed that his artificial limbs gave him an advantage over runners with natural ankles and feet. The IAAF insisted on having scientific tests done, and it was reported that indeed Oscar had an advantage with his blades. Based on the findings of these tests, the IAAF ruled Oscar's prosthesis ineligible for use in competitions conducted under the IAAF rules, including the 2008 Summer Olympic Games. Oscar appealed this decision and won the case. He said,
"My focus throughout this appeal has been to ensure that disabled athletes be given the chance to compete and compete fairly with non-disabled athletes. So I look forward to continuing my quest to qualify for the Olympics."
And that's exactly what he did. He participated in the 2008 Summer Paralympics in Beijing and even set a Paralympic record. In 2011, Oscar went on to win 3 IPC Athletics World titles in New Zealand, and in the same year, it was announced that he had been included in the South African team for the World Championships in South Korea. But in 2012, Oscar became the debut amputee runner to compete at an Olympic Games, and his performance there was incredible. The list of Oscar's achievements go on and are extremely impressive. But this is exactly why the world was stunned when the unthinkable happened. In November of 2012, Oscar would meet Reeva Steenkamp through a mutual friend, and the two hit it off immediately. Soon, they were exclusive. Reeva Steenkamp was born in Cape Town to parents Barry and June Steenkamp. The Steenkamps moved to Port Elizabeth, and there Reeva attended St. Dominic's School. She later studied law at Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University in Port Elizabeth, where she graduated with a Bachelor of Laws degree in 2005. She went on to work as a paralegal and a model, and she applied to the bar in late 2011, hoping to become a qualified legal advocate by the age of 30. Reeva appeared in FHM magazine, was the first face of Avon Cosmetics in South Africa, and also modelled for Savannah Diamonds. She was ranked 40th in the FHM Sexiest Woman in the World poll and was the face of Spirit Day, an anti-bullying campaign. She also appeared on the reality show Tropical Island of Treasure. She was kind, she loved horses, and her beauty was evident for all to see. She was absolutely smitten with Oscar, and a day before Valentine's Day in 2013, 29-year-old Reeva excitedly made her way to Oscar's home in Silverwoods Estate in Pretoria. She was excited to give him his Valentine's Day gift the following day and to spend a romantic day with the man she loved. At 4 a.m. on the 14th of February 2013, Valentine's Day, Detective Hilton Botha received a call that made his blood run cold. After hanging up, he told his wife Audrey, Oscar shot his girlfriend. Audrey knew exactly who Oscar was. Yes, he was a famous athlete, but she also knew Oscar from a couple of years ago when her husband arrested him for assault in 2009, when a hot-headed Oscar slammed a door so hard on a female guest at one of his parties that it caused severe injuries. At the time, Oscar denied those allegations and the charges were dropped, but he would not get away that easily this time. 15 minutes after the call, Detective Botha arrived at Oscar's luxurious home in the high-security community. Upon entering the home, he immediately saw Reeva's body at the bottom of the staircase. She was covered in towels and there was a lot of blood. Oscar reportedly called the manager of the gated community minutes after the shooting and asked him to call for an ambulance. Oscar then carried Reeva's body downstairs and tried CPR on her, while another witness tried to stop the bleeding from a gunshot wound to her arm. The witness said that Reeva was still breathing at that time and that she was making a gurgling sound. A doctor who stayed nearby also rushed to the scene, but after he saw the head wound, he knew their efforts would be in vain. And then, Reeva sadly stopped breathing. Detectives made their way to the upstairs master bedroom where the shooting had occurred. The crime scene was actually the ensuite bathroom. It had a shower, 2 basins, and a toilet cubicle. The door to the cubicle was riddled with bullet holes. On the floor lay a bloodied cricket bat, 2 cell phones, and a 9mm pistol. Reeva's family was absolutely devastated. It is completely understandable that the Steenkamps wanted justice for their precious daughter Reeva. But what happened? And why did it happen? Before we dive in a little deeper into the court proceedings, it's important to note that South African courts do not function on a jury system, but instead the appointed judge will make the final decision. I think it will be best for us to play Oscar's opening statement on his first day in court to present his side of what took place on that fateful morning.
I unlawfully and intentionally killed Reeva Steenkamp. This allegation is denied in the strongest terms. In fact, at the time of the tragic accident which led to Reeva's death, we were in a loving relationship. Whilst I admit that I inflicted the fatal gunshot wounds to Reeva, this occurrence was indeed an accident in that I had mistakenly believed that an intruder or intruders had entered my home and posed an imminent threat to Reeva and me. During the early hours of the morning, I brought 2 fans in from the balcony. I had shortly before spoken to Reeva, who was in bed beside me. Unbeknown to me, Reeva must have gone to the toilet in the bathroom at the time when I brought in the fans, closed the sliding doors, and drew the blinds and the curtains. I heard the bathroom window sliding open. I believed that an intruder or intruders had entered the bathroom through the bathroom window, which was not fitted with burglar bars. I approached the bathroom armed with my firearm so as to defend Reeva and I. At that time, I believe Reeva was still in the bed. The discharging of my firearm was precipitated by a noise in the toilet, which I, in my fearful state, knowing that I was on my stumps, unable to run away or properly defend myself physically, believed to be the intruder or intruders coming out of the toilet to attack Reeva and me. At my bail application, the state inter alia contended that I deliberately shot Reeva whilst I was positioned at a distance of about 1.5 meters from the toilet door, whilst I was standing on my prosthesis. The allegation with reference to 1.5 meters and me wearing my prosthesis was clearly designed to suggest that I had pursued Reeva to the toilet and that I therefore knew that Reeva was in the toilet. Thus, that I did not entertain any fear at a time when it is alleged that I entered the bathroom. The state is also, by means of the evidence of the then investigating officer Hilton Botha, sought to rely on a statement by a witness who I am told is a certain Estelle van der Merwe, who claims to have heard what sounded like a woman's voice prior to the shooting, talking non-stop like fighting. Van der Merwe's house is located approximately 105 meters from my bedroom, with my bedroom and bathroom windows facing in the opposite direction to Van der Merwe's house. It would not have been possible for Van der Merwe to have heard anyone talking from my bedroom in their bedroom. Now alleges, and the further particulars provided, that there was, in fact, an argument between Reeva and I, and that I killed Reeva, in quotes, because of the argument. I deny this allegation and reiterate that there is no justification, whether legally or factually, for this unfair and incorrect allegation to have been made. The state has now conceded that it cannot be contended as a fact that I was about 1.5 meters from the toilet door and that I had my prosthesis attached at the time when I discharged the firearm anymore. The unfair approach adopted by the state is further evident from the evidence given by Hilton Botha at the bail application, whose evidence will be demonstrated to have been false in material respects. More particularly, that it was designed to falsely incriminate me on an allegation of premeditated murder. It will also be demonstrated during this trial that whilst Botha was the investigating officer and tasked with preserving the scene, that the scene was contaminated, disturbed, and tampered with. I have been led to understand that it is unusual to challenge the state's case in my plea explanation to the extent that I do herein. However, I am left with no alternative but to explain my innocence with reference to the allegations leveled against me. As the state is aware of the fact that it has no evidence to prove an alleged argument, and in particular in view of the fact that the state has conceded that it does not know what the features or import of such alleged argument would have been, the only intended purpose of an attempt to introduce inadmissible character evidence would be to engineer and bring about an inadmissible attempted assassination of my character. That no truthful evidence can ever be tendered that I fired the shots, and I quote, because of the argument, unquote. I deny this allegation in the strongest terms because there was no argument. The allegation that I wanted to shoot, in brackets, or kill, close brackets, Reeva, cannot be further from the truth.
So just to recap, Oscar was being charged with murder and pleaded not guilty, stating that he did not intentionally shoot Reeva Steenkamp. He claims that he was under the impression that an intruder had entered through his bathroom window. But unfortunately, it wasn't an intruder, it was Reeva behind the door. In a frenzy, Oscar claims that he fired at the door, wanting to protect himself and his girlfriend from the intruder, but instead was horrified that it was in fact Reeva who he had fired at. Chief Prosecutor Harry Nell claimed the killing was premeditated and that Oscar shot Reeva deliberately after they had an argument. At the trial, Harry Nell said, "You fired 4 shots through the door, whilst knowing that she was standing behind the door." One of Oscar's neighbors also testified that they could hear a woman's voice and arguing before the horrific incident. But Oscar denied this and said that even if someone was arguing, it would have been impossible for that neighbor to hear it, as her home was located too far away from his. The prosecutors also found messages on Reeva's phone, which showed that she was secretly in contact with one of her exes. They argued that Oscar could have found these messages and murdered her in a fit of jealousy and rage, which Oscar also denied. Many of the text messages presented in court portrayed Oscar as possessive, hot-tempered, and argumentative. It was evident that the couple had their fair share of arguments and fights. It's also important to note that Oscar faced 3 additional firearms charges, 2 relating to discharging a firearm in public, and 1 relating to illegal possession of ammunition, all which to Oscar pleaded not guilty. Oscar's trial captivated the world. It was a grueling process for the Steenkamp family and for Oscar and his family. Oscar was asked to demonstrate how he walked without his prosthesis legs and was humiliated in front of the entire world. This was to demonstrate how he would have motioned towards the bathroom and for the court to get an idea of how tall he stood while firing the shots at Reeva.
Permission that you could just come around, my lady, stand there when I point out certain things, that we have reality in this. And it's so important for our case and whatever may follow in this case, my lady. So I ask the court's permission. You could just take off the legs there. If you can maybe just stand on my side where I can see when they talk to you. We have to see rationality now in the context of sentence. And what we have, and these facts can be tested, just hold on to them. These are the distilled facts that can be tested. Let's look at who is the person. After incorporating the Supreme Court of Appeals finding that you must sentence today, or Friday, or whatever day, this is the person.
Oscar also apologized to Reeva's family in court. And when Oscar had listened to Reeva's injuries, this happened.
I've taken responsibility, but I will not look at a picture where I'm tormented by what I saw and felt that night. As I picked Reeva up, my fingers touched her head. I remember. I don't have to look at a picture. I was there.
In September of 2014, a High Court judge convicted Oscar of culpable homicide, and he was also fined for one of the charges relating to discharging a firearm in public. He was sentenced to only 5 years in prison in October of 2014, and the whole world was outraged, with many claiming that he got off lightly due to his celebrity status. In March of 2015, prosecutors decided to appeal the culpable homicide verdict, and a High Court judge denied Oscar's bid to block prosecutors from appealing this verdict in favor of a murder conviction. On the 19th of October 2015, Oscar was released on house arrest to serve the rest of his sentence at his uncle's home. But on the 3rd of December that same year, the Supreme Court of Appeal overturned the ruling and found Pistorius guilty of murder, arguing he should have foreseen the possibility of killing someone when he fired the shots. Once again, people were outraged. Right throughout this case, South Africans have been divided in their opinions. Some believe it was a terrible accident. Others believe that Oscar intentionally murdered Reeva. So naturally, many felt that it was unfair of the justice system to sentence Oscar for a second time, whilst others were thrilled. On the 6th of July 2016, Oscar was sent back to prison for 6 years, and in November of 2017, the Supreme Court of Appeal more than doubled his murder sentence to 13 years and 5 months, accepting the prosecutor's argument that the original jail term was shockingly lenient. Oscar served his sentence and then on 31 March 2023 had his parole hearing after serving half of his sentence, and it was approved, allowing him to be freed today on the 5th of January 2024. Now you might be wondering how Reeva's family are feeling about his release. This is what Reeva's mother June had to say. With the release of Oscar Pistorius on parole, My only desire is that I will be allowed to live my last years in peace, with my focus remaining on the Reeva Rebecca Steenkamp Foundation to continue Reeva's legacy. Unfortunately, June Steenkamp was widowed in September 2023 when her husband and Reeva's father Barry died at the age of 80. June also went on to mention that she, as the mother of Reeva, was the one who was serving a life sentence after what Oscar did. Our hearts have always gone out to the Steenkamp family. It's hard to imagine the heartache and pain that this family had to endure and still endures today. May your soul rest in peace, Reeva Steenkamp. You will find the link to Reeva Rebecca Steenkamp's foundation in the description. This foundation supports people who are going through domestic violence. So that's a wrap for this story. I'm curious to know, where do you stand on the matter? Do you believe Oscar deliberately shot Reeva, or was it a horrible accident? Either way, I'd love to hear from you. And while you're at it, if you haven't yet, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.